All right, let's move on to the economic geography of Africa. As far as natural resources, Africa is very abundant in natural resources, but many of those are either being exploited or not used. And what that means is they might have the natural resources, but it takes money to make money, so they might not have the money to invest in, say, an oil rig or drilling equipment or extraction equipment to get those natural resources out of the earth. Exploited means that a lot of European countries, the reason why they colonized Africa is so that they could use and abuse the African people to get to extract those natural resources, not pay them, or very little, if anything, and then European countries make all the money from that particular natural resource. So that has caused a lot of economic strife in Africa. They have a lot of natural resources, but they have not been able to make money from them. So some of those really rich natural resources, you will see when you start to do research about your particular country that these might be some of the more common resources. Gold, bauxite. Bauxite is used to make aluminum. Diamonds, I'll show a map a little bit later, but South Africa has a big area of diamonds. There are some other areas as well, but South Africa is one of them. Manganese, which is used for like fireworks or dynamite because it's explosive or it's it's flammable. Copper and nickel, so a lot of minerals. Cobalt and platinum. Chromium, 99% of the world's chromium is found in Africa. Natural gas and oil, those two usually go hand in hand. So if a region is rich in oil, they also have reserves of natural gas, iron ore, and then hydroelectric power, which of course is power generated from water, specifically over a dam, over a waterfall, for example, like Victoria Falls on the Zambezi River. Agriculture, as far as Africa goes, most people are involved in agriculture. Maybe not like what we think of here in Iowa, but a lot of them are individual subsistence farmers and herders. What that means is they make enough for their own family, their own survival. They don't make a lot of agricultural products to sell. There's also very little factories or manufacturing in Africa. There are industries, but they tend to either relate to the natural resources or something relating with the items that they have available in Africa. Most of the population lives in the country or is rural, not living in a large city. Africa is the second least developed continent after Antarctica. And this means that it's actually the least developed continent because obviously Antarctica, not many people live there, scientists and maybe penguins. All right, so third world countries. Third world countries are developing nation, and there are lots of them around the world, but because of where they're located, Africa, Asia, and Latin America have the majority of third world countries, particularly because these countries are either near the equator or just south of the equator. Most of the third world countries, the people live in the most poorest regions of the world, yet the most rapidly increasing. So again, they are having more people, yet they can't feed them and clothe them and house them. Most live in slums, something like you and I aren't even remotely familiar with. Water is very hard to come by, and they might have to walk miles to get good drinking water. And even then, a lot of the water has been polluted. And of course, they have inadequate food for a variety of reasons. Too large deserts in Africa, you're not going to grow anything there. the things you can't really farm in the rainforest regions of Africa either. So all of that is related to being a third world country. And finally, they have very few opportunities to ever get out of a third world country. They don't really have an organized education system. Again, girls in particular, access to medical care. If they do, again, they'll walk miles just to get it. That's why some of the world's worst diseases and outbreaks have occurred in Africa. All right, so let's look at this economic map. First of all, let's look at the symbols. So you can see there's hydroelectric power, gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, uranium, and other minerals, or coal, natural gas, and oil. So as I mentioned, oil is going to be found along the coasts. So you'll see that it'll be along the coasts as you do here along the Atlantic Ocean and up here along the Mediterranean Sea. So oil and natural gas go hand in hand, so they're right next to each other. We talked about diamonds. So if you see the D's, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are in the southern portion. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe that's about it, that are kind of in the middle part, and then there are a couple over here on the coast on the Atlantic Ocean. So again, the southern portion, South Africa, has a lot of diamonds. When we want to talk about, gold, silver, other minerals like manganese, bauxite, you can see all of those symbols as well. Now let's focus on the color. The colors mean something. So this pink shaded region here and along the coast, that's limited economic activity. And that's mostly because those are deserts. Okay? Along the coast, you can see there's commercial fishing, which makes sense. They don't just fish for themselves, they fish and sell it commercially. This light yellow or cream colored region here, this is the subsistence farming that I mentioned, where they farm just for their own survival. In the middle, this green region is hunting and gathering like the old Stone Age times, and we're talking about this is even today. That's because it's in the rainforest. This orange area, that's nomadic herding, and then the pink areas are livestock farming. Okay, so again, if we looked at the other map about climatic regions, they're going to coincide. So this pink region of limited economic activity, Sahara. This green area here in the middle of hunting and gathering, that is the tropical rainforest. This is the steppe region that has subsistence farm, or steppe region here, sorry, that has subsistence farming, which is this orange. The light yellow, that's subsistence where it's steppe. And so this is steppe, and this is savanna. Okay? Alrighty. Population also coincides. The darker regions, the purple is the most, and then dark red, and then orange, then light orange, and then cream colored, and then white. So you can see, of course, here's where the deserts are located. That's why there's fewer people. Most people live along the coast, so you can see that's pretty accurate. Lots of people live here along the Nile River, which we talked about. Lots of people live here along Lake Victoria. And then, again, there are some major cities, but they're pretty limited because most people are rural. There's that map I talked about where you had the humid tropical, and then that's where it's hunting and gathering. And then you have the tropical savanna, which is subsistence farming. And then you have the steppe regions here, which I said, was a little bit more of the herding, and then the deserts where it's limited activity. All right, moving on to historical geography. Civilization, we'll talk about this in chapter 2, but started developing anywhere between 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. Of course, the oldest human remains, which we already mentioned from chapter 1. Cities like Cairo along the Nile River, the ancient Egyptians, you probably know the most about them out of Africa, even though they weren't the only people in Africa in early civilizations. Carthage is the location of present-day Tunisia. They fought with the Romans. We'll talk about that in chapter 5. Very few written records except for the hieroglyphics written by Egyptians, so that's why we know so much about the Egyptians and not so much about the other groups of people. And in the 15th century, the Europeans settled these lands and people became slaves. And that was a significant historical event for Africa. The apartheid, which we already talked about by watching the movie Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, started in the 40s and continued up until the 90s, and that was just an extreme form of segregation. European colonization settled, land in Africa outside of Europe, and they do this to, for culture, for trade, for more land. There's lots of reasons, economic, political. They just want to flex their muscles and see what they can colonize. But European countries did this the most in the 1500s. So again, mostly because of the beauty, like the unique plants and animals, and the natural resources, gold, diamonds, oil, etc., etc. The two countries that claimed this, most of Africa, were Britain and France. There's a movie, The Ghost in the Darkness, about the region of Savo when the Europeans were laying railroad track and trying to colonize more and more land. It was a huge competition between Britain and France, and these man-eating lions attacked the workers, and it slowed the progression of this railroad. And now you can see those lions in the Field Museum in Chicago. And after World War II, most of these countries gained their independence from Europe. So even though they are independent, a lot of these countries, you'll see that their official language is French, or their official language is English, or their official language is Portuguese. So you'll see a lot of that. Or names of cities, or countries. Côte d'Ivoire is French for Ivory Coast. And here's a map of the colonization. So Britain is red, France is green. Those are the two biggies. You can see Belgium controlled the big country in the middle, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Used to be called Zaire. Germany got involved and has 3 or 4 countries. Spain was involved, but Western Sahara and Equatorial Guinea, not really much. Italy, again, you've got Libya, and then you've got Djibouti. You've got Portugal, which has a few countries in the southern portion, and then Somalia. The white ones never were colonized. They were always on their own, or controlled by the United States. This is Liberia, this one right over here, and we talked about how the United States kind of claimed that territory for freed slaves if they wanted to go back.